Every season of Survivor is a story. There are main characters, sidekicks, comic reliefs, and villains. A good season of Survivor tells a good story. It will grip you and have you rooting for someone and against someone else. You will want to tune in episode after episode to see what happens next until it all finishes with a, hopefully, satisfying conclusion. Each story that we look at together will go through one character's journey from beginning to end, from the time that they are introduced until they inevitably get their torch snuffed or win the game. We will look at every character moment and strategic move to determine whether they were a hero or a villain and whether they were a good or bad strategist. And with that, welcome to Once Upon an Island. For reference, we will only be observing what the TV show is showing us and what story is being told through the show. No future seasons will be mentioned, as the story and characters here have no idea and therefore are unaffected by those future seasons. All character moments and strategic moves are interpreted with the mindset of what the story is trying to tell us. With that out of the way, let's open the book on Rob Cesternino of Survivor the Amazon. Before we start, I want to thank you all for supporting this channel. If you want to see these videos weeks before they are ever released here on YouTube, then consider supporting this channel on Patreon. You can also vote for which survivors I tell the stories of, like this one, and even get an exclusive Patreon-only video each month about the topic of your choosing. Thank you for your support.
39 days, 16 people, 1 survivor.
Rob Cesternino, a 24-year-old computer projects coordinator, was a castaway on Survivor's 6th season, Survivor the Amazon. He came in and helped completely change the strategic gameplay of Survivor forever while still being a major character in the show. So how did he do it? Let's find out. Survivor the Amazon finally did what Survivor Thailand simply teased. They split up the tribes by male and female.
When Jeff called the 5th girl, I knew it like instantly. This is an all-woman tribe.
Rob, of course, ends up on the men's tribe, Tambaki.
Rob.
All the guys were really pumped up. There was no way that women are gonna beat us in anything. Physical, mentally, or whatever.
The first episode can tell you a lot about a character and how significant of a role they will be in that season's story. This becomes very apparent as Rob is seen almost all episode, starting with the men. Now having arrived at their camp, getting ready to cut down some trees to build a shelter, everyone is given a machete, and Rob says,
So cool, my parents would never let me have a machete.
Everyone heads out and starts chopping down trees. We see man after man doing this very efficiently and with grace. Cut to Rob.
I think I missed my calling in life as a lumberjack.
The men have had a very successful day working together and working on a shelter as they celebrate. We hear from Rob about what he thinks the women's camp was like on day one.
But I don't think any of them had any idea they'd be doing this on estrogen alone over there in Camp of the Vagina Monologue.
This may have been funny to a select group of people at the time, but it is sexist. It is now the next day and Roger's being real bossy, and he takes the lead on what work needs to be done around camp. Rob says that he recognizes that he knows he needs to just go with the flow and say yes to Roger, so he doesn't cause any waves and put a target on his back.
Roger definitely is very bossy. You know, when we were building the shelter, he's telling people, and especially telling kids, which is mostly this tribe, I know how to play this game. I say, yes, Roger, yes, Roger, sure, Roger. I just go and do it. But it doesn't bother me too much.
Rob then tells us that he doesn't see how the women could be as far along in their shelter building as the men, and he thinks they're probably not all working well together.
I don't see the women working well together. I know that their shelter is not going to be as good as ours.
He then makes a joke about them calling their boyfriends.
I see them all crying and panicking, trying to build a cell phone so they could call their boyfriends to come over and help them build the shelter.
He is proven correct, as right after that we cut over to the women's tribe and they seemingly have accomplished very little when it comes to building their shelter. Later on at camp, the men are taking a break from all of their hard work and Rob introduces everyone to his luxury item, the Magic 8 Ball. He goes on to cheekily explain that, hey, it really does work.
The Magic 8 Ball is a really good thing to have out here. Well, one thing that you may or may not know is that It really works.
However, he has one very important rule.
I told the tribe there was only one rule with the Magic 8 Ball, and that was that they cannot ask it whether we will win or lose challenges.
Considering how focused this episode has been on the differences between the men and the women, and how much the men are seen lusting after the women, it isn't a big surprise when that is what the men ask of the Magic 8 Ball about.
Will I get together with Heidi? That girl Heidi, she is so hot. She could put Viagra out of business.
At the immunity challenge, the men lose in a very embarrassing fashion as they had a very good lead on the women, but end up blowing it all on the balance beam.
Guys, you're blowing your lead. You're good. Feet can't touch. No, no, Daniel. No, buddy. No, come on. Jamboree wins immunity. You had a big lead. You just blew it.
Back at camp, Dave scolds the men for lying about catching lots of fish when Jeff Probst asks them, hey, have you caught any fish? And they're like, yeah, lots. Rob explains how Dave is a guy with morals. Morals that has Dave incapable of lying in the game, and that only benefits Rob.
I'm gonna lie and cheat and do whatever it takes to win, and if he's only gonna tell the truth all the time, that's gonna hurt him in this game.
While Ryan is strategizing with Rob about what they're gonna do at that night's vote, Rob observes how Ryan is abrasive and very self-focused and not at all caring when it comes to the overall tribe. He then says how both Ryan and Roger have approached him about voting with them at Tribal, and Rob says,
and I've told them both that I will do what they want.
In a 4-3-1 vote, Ryan is voted out of the tribe, and it seems like Rob's vote was the deciding factor in this.
Ryan, the tribe has spoken.
After the extra long premiere, we have now seen how Rob is very, very smart. He is leagues ahead of a lot of people we have seen play the game through 6 seasons. He already knows to go with the flow as to not put a target on his back. And however, despite his humorous, lighthearted approach to things, we have seen how he is willing to lie without any issue in an age of Survivor where that actually means a lot and affects how a jury feels about you at Final Tribal Council. Rob is going to have to use his smarts and wits to keep his threat level low until it becomes too late for everyone else to stop him. Otherwise, he may burn out too soon. Episode 2 is a quiet one for Rob for the most part. At camp, Roger and Alex are talking about as long as someone isn't hurting others, then they don't really care how other people live. Now, Roger says that, hey, even being gay is fine to him, but he would prefer not to see gay people out in public having public displays of affection. Alex says this doesn't bother him in the least, and the debate begins. What is important here is that Rob identifies this tiff between the two as a possible avenue to get people to vote against Roger. He seems to always be thinking about game moves even when no one else is.
I was really stumped on who I could get that might vote against Roger up until this morning when a light bulb went off in my head.
The men win the immunity challenge, so we don't know if Roger would have been target number 1 or not. Moving on to episode 3, Rob says that men build their shelters first and then think about comfort second.
But we're men and we just build and we think about comfort later, where we want to build an awesome structure, something big to look at. That's what we do, we're the men.
And he thinks the women haven't built theirs as well, and if they did, then they focused on comfort first. This is pretty humorous and also true based on what we see.
I can't imagine that the girls have a shelter that is comparable to ours. Maybe it's more comfortable than ours.
This is day 7, and our tribe is pretty much pathetic.
They go to the reward challenge, and it is essentially a massive game of Go Fish. When it is Rob's turn,
Heidi, do you have any conditioner?
No.
Shot down by another woman.
after some more joking by Rob, Jeff asks him if his shtick ever actually works with women.
Okay, good to know.
Hey Rob, before you ask, does that usually work, that sort of witty repartee?
Amazingly, Jeff, it doesn't.
Rob says, hey, you may be surprised, but it doesn't. But then Jenna speaks up and says, actually...
You should hear what we say about him at our camp. It's all good.
Dude, Rob! Nice, baby! The Robasu!
Dear God, I hope that there's a merger.
The men do lose the reward challenge, and back at camp, they start recalling how hot the women are. During that, Rob talks about his affection for Heidi and how he feels like the longer they're in the game, the higher his chances get of getting with her.
She's probably a 9.5 in real life, and right about now she's closing in on a 6. So that kind of levels the playing field for a guy like me.
He then says that he isn't a big fan of Joanna.
I don't like Joanna. Jesus loves Jabiru. I didn't know that Jesus had a vested interest in Survivor, because as far as I've seen every picture of him, Jesus is a guy I would think that he would want the guys to win.
Later on, Rob is talking to Alex and basically proceeds to suck kneecaps as he tells Alex that he is an amazing player, which Alex says thank you to, and Rob says he is very underestimated, meaning Rob's underestimated.
I think that you are the best player on this tribe.
Alex then says that if it were up to him, he would rather have Roger gone than Rob. This is very good on Rob to be pushing a narrative of him being weak. However, he is saying he is underestimated. Overall, very solid.
Roger, I want to do it.
While Alex is telling us his strategy and how he feels like the swing vote, Rob is shown telling this joke about hot chocolate and Viagra.
I went to, I said, Grandpa, how's it going? And he said, oh, it's crazy here. Every night before we go to bed, they're giving us hot chocolate and Viagra. I said, yes, I'll explain, sir. The hot chocolate is so they go to sleep, and Viagra is so they don't roll out of the bed.
On the way to the immunity challenge, the women are shown preparing and getting ready for war. They mean business. Meanwhile, with the men...
Is there any chance that Heidi will notice me at the immunity challenge? Put it up. Yes, definitely. Yeah, baby.
In a not so surprising turn of events, given how things were shown going into the challenge, the men lose, and Rob gets to work. He starts by telling Roger that Dan wants him gone. He then talks to Dan and acts as if he was on his side against Roger. It's similar to when he pretended to be on both Roger and Ryan's side before the first vote. Now, it's only smart if you don't get caught, and so far, Rob isn't getting caught.
And he may be very close to bursting, and I hope that happens. I know that anytime any two people in the tribe are butting heads, that's good for business.
At Tribal Council, Jeff asks Dan about any friendships he has in the game. Dan says that he feels connected to Matthew since Matthew can also speak Chinese. Dan says that him being another race makes him different from the rest of the tribe since they're all white and he's not.
Even though I was born and raised in the U.S., just even before I speak, I stand up from the rest, and sometimes that makes me an outcast.
Rob speaks up about how Dan isn't being treated any differently due to his race.
We're all from different places and from different backgrounds, and we all realize that everybody's different, and that's what makes us unique.
Dan is then voted out 6-1.
Daniel, tribe has spoken. It's time for you to go.
Episode 4 begins, and the men have won the reward challenge. Back at camp, the men are eating a fish, and Matthew has one of the fish's eyes in his mouth. Rob comments,
The eyeballs shouldn't go to waste either.
That was nasty. There's no eye in the team, but there's one in Matt's mouth.
We then cut to Roger, who says that Rob is enthusiastic but pathetic.
Rob is the most enthusiastic kid I've seen.
He really is pathetic. I mean, to be 24 years old, sing karaoke in your basement.
Now, normally, something like this being said by somebody else would be a negative look for the character that we're looking at. But in this case, Roger calling Rob pathetic doesn't really mean as much because Roger's been portrayed fairly negatively by the story so far and by others in the game through these first 4 episodes. So it seems like the source of the pathetic comment negates its meaning. The men win immunity and are safe from Tribal Council. Episode 5 kicks off and the tribe swap from Survivor Africa and Survivor Marquesas has returned, except instead of it being pretty much random, Jenna and Dave spend a night together and they draft new tribes.
Because the game's about to take a turn, we're gonna have a little draft. And you two are in charge of picking new tribes.
They had to follow the rule of only being able to do half men and half women on each tribe though. Dave returns back to camp and informs Rob that, hey, you're switching tribes to Jabiru. Now this does not sit well with Rob at all since Dave presents this as, I'm doing you a favor there, bud.
Well, let me tell you guys this. I completely was true to us, and I completely took advantage of Jenna.
And I'm doing what is best for the tribe. Instead of clearly communicating why he couldn't keep all of the guys together, Rob says that he doesn't think Dave has his best interest at heart, and he's right.
I was very mad when I found out that my fate in this game would be determined by Dave. I don't think he has my best interests at heart.
While at the new Jabiru, it seems like things are going great. The women are enjoying the men's company, and Rob tells us that he's going to wait a little bit before offering any propositions. However, he jokes that
Should Shauna and Jenna walk around here naked, I will promise them I will not cast a vote in their direction until the merger.
Jabiru wins immunity and Rob is safe again. Moving into episode 6, Rob clears up any doubt about whether he would hold back on his thirsty nature he had shown while at the men's camp when he gets to use a toothbrush that the women had won on a previous reward and makes his mouth sparkling clean.
How's that feel, Rob? Indescribably good.
Does anybody want to make out with me right now?
Now, no women take Rob up on his offer, but Alex does.
Does anybody want to make out with me right now?
I will after I brush my teeth.
I want one of the girls to kiss me, but none of them want to do it, which is surprising.
Everyone then gets down to the creek to take a bath. Rob is blown away.
One is a swimsuit model.
Man.
I'd like to repeat that I just took a bath with a swimsuit model.
Later on, Rob has noticed that ever since they have arrived at Jabiru, Alex has gone from being a good alliance member with Rob to basically cuddling and flirting with Shauna 24/7, which has Rob saying,
He's not as interested in playing the game as he is making friends, which is stupid because he could have stayed home and made a bunch of friends.
The loss of focus by Alex has Rob talking to Dina instead, and they seem to form a bond and an alliance together. Now, this is good news for Rob, as this is the first time we have seen him be able to make a real bond with someone of the opposite sex that none of the men know about. Plus, we have seen Dina in prior confessionals make smart observations about the game.
And she's the kind of person that nobody would suspect I would have anything in common with.
Do you mind being with a bunch of chicks?
I could do worse.
We then see what is the beginning of a major storyline we will follow for the rest of the season. Rob befriends Matthew and is his source of all strategic information. Rob is basically the Jedi Master and Matthew's the Padawan. Rob tells us how he is totally playing Matt.
Matthew has no idea that he's being played by myself. The guy is a complete idiot and has no concept of what's going on in this game around him.
Jabiru then loses immunity, and back at camp, Alex openly says that it's obvious that the target is either himself or Matthew. Rob is not mentioned at all.
Most likely, the choice is me or Matt. And Matt, I hope you don't take this personally at all, that my vote's going your way just for the reason that I don't want to vote any of them on.
However, at Tribal, Rob votes for Shauna, and she is ultimately voted out 4-2.
Shauna, the tribe has spoken.
Alex is now separated from his woman crush, and a person who was not aligned with Rob is out of the game, so this is overall good for Rob. We slide into episode 7, and historically this has meant a merge is incoming, unless Jeff tries to fake you out like in Survivor Thailand. However, these players did not get a chance to see the fake merge of Survivor Thailand, so they don't consider it as a possibility. It seems that despite having voted out Shauna the night before, there isn't much bad blood in the new Jabiru tribe. Everyone likes each other and is working well with one another. Rob then proposes an idea that has never been proposed before any merge in the history of Survivor. What if the new Jabiru is his new alliance and they team up to vote out Roger, Butch, and Dave of the old Tambaki?
I don't like having to discuss strategy in an open forum, but should there be a merger in the next 3 days, I just want to make sure that all these knuckleheads understand the plan.
This is an extremely risky move, especially when presented in an open forum like Rob is doing. It seems like everyone's on board with the idea, and this is a huge turning point that needs to be dived into a bit further. There are two very likely ways this idea will play out. The first is that it backfires and the women get back together and tell the men what Rob was planning on doing, and he's voted out immediately. However, the second scenario is that it does work and they do work together successfully.
Dave, you guys, Roger, Butch.
Amen to that, sister.
And don't ever let them see the 5 of us talking at one time.
But by the time they all reach final 5 or 6, Rob will be seen as the mastermind of this huge monumental shift in Survivor that no mixed tribe has ever done before, and he will be a huge target that will have to fight tooth and nail to the end while making people not feel burnt by this major blindside that he will end up being credited for. As of now, it seems smart, so let's see how it plays out.
Today you will form one final tribe, and you will live with this tribe for the rest of your days in the Amazon.
As predicted, the tribes do merge and have formed Jacare. Back at camp, Rob sees how Roger and Dina immediately butt heads. However, Roger is completely oblivious to all of this.
So you get these two together. Roger thinks that women are stupid. Dina thinks that women are better than men, and there's just about a million different conversations they could go off on.
The new merged tribe is building their new shelter, and Dave says that he doesn't think anyone is talking strategy. But then we hear from Rob how he says the smart players are building alliances while everyone else is building shelter.
Some people are busy building the shelter. Other people, like myself, are busy building alliances and working towards the end of the game.
At night, everyone is talking about their sex life, and then they ask Rob about his, and he says that it's so boring and uninteresting, but there was this one time he was hanging out with these two girls, but they didn't seem to like each other. Heidi says that doesn't matter at all, and Jenna cautiously agrees.
You know what? Seriously, as a guy, I think you'd be amazed how many girls, if you said that's what you wanted to do, how quickly it would happen. Wouldn't it, Jenna? Don't you think so?
Yeah.
And Rob then tells us he's reconsidering his plans for the final three, as it may be best to be with Heidi and Jenna at the end.
I'm rethinking my whole strategy so that the final three might be myself, Heidi, and Jenna. I could be having a threesome on day 37 out here.
At the Immunity Challenge, Survivor brings back a classic endurance challenge they used in the Australian Outback when Tina stepped down to let Chef Keith win and secure that they would win the tie vote. Except this time, the stakes don't seem as high as that. As is normal during the challenge, Jeff comes out with various foods to tempt people to come down so that the challenge doesn't last for 12 hours. It doesn't take long before Heidi and Jenna offer to strip naked for chocolate and peanut butter, which has Rob immediately saying,
I'll take my clothes off for chocolate and peanut butter.
Get the girls some chocolate and peanut butter, probes.
If you had coal, I'm so in.
And just like that, almost immediately, Jeff is back with chocolate and peanut butter, and Heidi and Jenna do exactly what they said they would do. Rob ends up dropping for pizza, albeit with all of his clothes on.
It's a piping hot pizza! I'm in! Booyah!
Before Tribal Council, it is very clear that Roger is going home. The show hasn't even pretended like there is a second target, someone else that could possibly be voted out. Rob then tells us that the men are a bunch of schmucks, and he arrogantly calls his shot when he says he'll be the last man standing, and the rest of the men won't see it coming.
I realized early on that the other men that I was dealt with are a bunch of jamokes. I will go as far to say that I know that I'm going to be the last man standing in this game.
Tribal Council plays out exactly as expected. Roger goes home in a 7-3 vote that only had Butch and Dave voting with him.
Roger, the tribe has spoken. It's time for you to go.
Rob's plan that he proposed at the beginning of the episode has panned out through the first merge vote. This next moment no longer exists when watching the episode online. However, when it originally aired, Rob was shown voting out Roger with this classic line.
Here's your request. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Hey, hey, hey. Goodbye.
Episode 8 begins, and we know that the flipping of allegiances between tribes, as proposed by Rob, is successful. If all goes according to plan, Dave and Butch should be the next two to go, and eventually Rob will be the last man standing. It seems like we're moving into the second scenario of how this all could play out, since it is working, but everyone pointing the finger at Rob as the culprit of the flip is a high possibility. For some reason, as of late, Matthew has been spending an extraordinary amount of time sharpening his machete. It's freaking some people out, including Rob.
Promise I won't harm anyone. I'm a pacifist, guys. Blood scares me too.
He sits and sharpens his machete for an hour at a time. Why does he need the machete so sharp? I think he's gonna kill us.
While Jenna and Heidi are bathing, we hear from Rob that while he appreciates his alliance with them, he knows that outside of Survivor, they wouldn't pay him much mention. So in this game, he's making sure to keep his focus in the right place and make the strategic decisions that he needs to, and let his mind do the talking.
I am aware of how they're trying to use their sexuality to get me to do things that I wouldn't normally do and make mistakes that I wouldn't normally make.
After that, we hear from him how he doesn't like Heidi and Dave sleeping together at night, as they are in opposing alliances, and this bond they are developing could easily cause a split in the new Jabiru alliance. She claims she's playing Dave, but Rob thinks that she could be trying to play him instead.
And Dave has his arms around Heidi. I do think that if you have a better chance if Dave wasn't around, that maybe my arms would be around Heidi. It's very annoying, the whole thing.
It comes across as a little bit jealous from Rob, but mostly a smart observation.
Supposedly she's playing him, but then in my mind, potentially, I say, well, is Heidi just trying to play me? I don't like the fact that somebody in my alliance is sleeping with the enemy.
We then hear from Matthew how he truly appreciates his friendship with Rob and how Rob is teaching him how to play this game.
I really appreciate and value my relationship with Rob because he knows the game inside and out. I mean, I'm clueless.
Rob then feeds Matthew a fake story to keep Matthew from doing anything, and Rob wants to vote Matt out as he feels like he is riding a thin line telling Matt all these lies.
To keep Matthew from turning on the 5, I need him to believe that he has a different deal going on.
He is worried that eventually Matt will figure it all out, and this is an important moment as this is where Rob's story starts to turn heel.
So I've come up with this fake story to Matthew about how Matthew, Alex, and I are going to be the final 3. I am taking my life into my hands with the amount of lies that I'm telling him just to keep him happy.
Jenna wins immunity, and we go to Tribal Council knowing that Rob wants Dave gone next. At Tribal, Rob sucks up to Matthew and says how much progress Matthew has made is truly impressive and makes him an invaluable part of their tribe.
And now I think that he's fit in so well now, and he really has become an invaluable part of this tribe.
Dave is then voted out in an 8-1 vote, and everything is going according to plan.
Dave, the tribe has spoken.
Episode 9 starts, and it's actually a continuation of what we saw Rob doing in episode 8 as he is feeding Matt false information and sending him on wild goose chases. Matt falls for a hook, line, sinker.
Every morning I give Matt a debriefing of the wild goose chases I want him to work on for the day, just to keep his mind busy.
And it is all edited with humorous music, so it negates the negative villain vibe something like this would normally give when lying to someone for fun. It's very funny when we then cut to Matt doing the same thing that Rob was doing with him, but now Matt's doing it with Butch because he learned it from Rob.
I've been really filling Matt's head with a lot of crazy stuff, and I've been telling him about how the men are going to vote off all of the women and that we need Butch's help.
It's a chain, and I'm Butch's link to what's happening. I've told him that I will decide when we speak. I will initiate all communication.
I guess it's like a chain. You get your big chain, big 4 together, and then you want to be one of those links.
However, back at camp, Rob is then gloating to the others what he is doing with Matt, and while they find this funny, this is just showing everyone that ultimately you can't trust Rob as he toys with people and turns on alliances, seemingly for fun.
I told Butch, I said, Butch, you're on a need-to-know basis.
It's almost time for the reward challenge, and the castaways are given bows and arrows and spears and a blowgun to practice. Rob explains that he isn't familiar with these kinds of spears.
Coming to this game, the only spears I knew about were Brittany and broccoli and asparagus.
Rob doesn't win the reward challenge, instead Alex does, and he brings Jenna with him. When they both get back from the reward, they have cookies for everyone. While Matt and Butch are out fishing, Rob suggests,
Eat all the cookies.
Hey, I was very fair.
Now, it seems like an innocent suggestion, and Rob tries to explain to us why he thought this. However, this goes hand in hand with him tricking Matt and telling everyone that is what he is doing. It just makes him look very untrustworthy to people.
We could just eat the cookies, and Matt and Butch wouldn't know. I mean, they're really on the outside looking in power-wise. Even if they found out, what are they gonna do?
Matt wins the gross food challenge and gets immunity, keeping him safe. Afterwards, Rob reveals to us that Dina and Alex are the opposing sides, and he seems to be in good with both of them.
I'm sort of in both circles in all this right now. I get information from Dina and Alex too.
Right before tribal, Rob tells us that who goes home tonight will be the one who expects it the least.
We're in the mob, and that there's gonna be a hit on one of my friends, and I really have to look the other way and act like everything's honky-dory.
As it turns out, that person is Dina, as Rob flips on her, and she is voted out 6-2.
Dina, the tribe has spoken. It's time for you to go.
Episode 10 is a recap episode, and that's not part of the overall narrative of the story, so we move on to episode 11. At this point, we have seen a shift of Rob's story from a lovable goofball to a smart villain. Episode 8 started it, episode 9 pushed that narrative harder, and now it's full on. We begin with how Alex and Jenna consider Rob a good friend that they want to hang out with outside of the game.
Like, I consider you three, like, my best friends. Like, in and out of the game, though. And not just here, like, at home.
We then see how Butch, Matt, and Christy are all working hard around camp, and while Rob, Jenna, and Matt and Heidi are chilling, they know they're the majority, so they don't have to do work. They can just chill and do nothing while everyone else is working around them.
But sometimes it's like, come on, get off your butt and go and get some wood or go and try to do something. And they just do jack.
Early the next morning, Alex talks to Rob about how he sees the Final Four. He says he sees himself, Rob, Jenna, and Heidi in the Final Four. However, Alex says that if he wins the Final Four immunity, he's gonna vote Rob out because he knows Jenna and Heidi aren't voting for each other.
The way I see it, if I win immunity, my vote goes for you, and I'm sure that if you win immunity, you're gonna vote me out, and that's totally cool. So whatever happens at 4 happens. You know what I mean? Are you cool with that?
And Rob is obviously not okay with this at all and realizes that in his alliance of 4, he's the low man on the totem pole. He isn't going to be simply be voted out and not fight.
But I have never stopped playing Survivor, and over my dead body will I turn over and let somebody just pass me by.
It is great on Rob's social game that Alex feels like he can go up to Rob and say, hey, just to let you know, when we get to Final Four, I'm going to vote you out. That very impressive by Rob to make someone trust him that much. Rob then approaches Matthew and comes clean to him about all that Rob has done.
This is the most important conversation that I'm going to have with you in this entire game.
Perhaps the most important conversation of the game.
Matt takes this very well and seems to be good with it since Rob is being honest and Rob is pitching it all as if he feels guilty for ever doing this to Matt in the first place.
I know that you trust me, and I don't want to tell you any more lies.
Sure, okay.
I swear that this is the honest truth.
Rob can be very underhanded, but I appreciated his honesty.
Rob then pitches to Matt that he wants Alex out since he is targeting Rob and frames it as Alex thinking he has this game all wrapped up. Matt is on board with the plan.
Me, you, Butch, and Christy vote out Alex tomorrow.
That's what I was thinking.
Rob then approaches Christy, who everyone knows hates Jenna and Heidi. He pitches it to her to flip on Alex. She's on board immediately, though she is a bit weary that Rob could be just stirring up something.
Dude, I'm with you. I'm with you to get Alex out. Just because Alex, I could care less about him, and I just,
At the immunity challenge, it is a questionnaire that shows how well do you know your tribe mates, and Rob wins, netting him safety.
Heidi is correct. Nice job, Rob. Rob wins immunity.
Congratulations, dude.
This
is the best day of my life. Yeah, good job, Rob.
These are my people.
Going into Tribal, Matt tells us how everything hinges on Rob to vote out Alex, but Matt says that Rob is devious and has played quite a few people to get to the position he is in. We have seen all season that Matt is not an astute player by any means, so him saying this actually means a lot coming from him.
Rob can be very devious. Rob has betrayed a number of people to get where he is today.
At Tribal, Jeff asks if it is important to know everyone or just to know your alliance members. Rob says that something that is often overlooked in the game of Survivor, but is very important, is the interpersonal relationships and knowing what your tribe mates are thinking and feeling. He is right in so many ways, and this is the basis of how the best winners play the game.
The biggest part of this game that often gets overlooked is interpersonal relationships. It's getting to understand what's going through the heads of everybody that's around in the game.
The flip is successful and Alex is voted out 4-3, completely flipping the game, but leaving 2 alliance members in the dark.
Alex, tribe has spoken.
Take it easy, guys.
Good luck. Good luck, dude.
Episode 12 starts and we immediately see how Jenna and Heidi feel betrayed by Rob, and they rightfully should feel this way.
I felt betrayed more than I've ever felt in my life. Rob screwed the alliance. He betrayed me and Heidi. He betrayed Alex.
Jenna even goes as far as to say that she hates him and she can't ever forgive him.
We hate him. Me and Heidi cannot ever forgive him.
At the reward challenge, everyone is playing for time with their loved ones. Matt wins and Jeff gives him a choice.
If you are willing to give up your visit, I'll make sure that the other 5 tribe members all get a visit from their loved one.
I give it up.
Rob cries and hugs his mom.
Roseanne, come on out.
Roseanne.
Later on, he tells his mom how he has been playing this game.
I've been really bad.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
Back at camp, Rob tries to suck up to the girls and reminds them of all the good times they had together.
I really used last night as an opportunity to kiss and make up with the girls, and I want them just to remember all the fun we had and not all the bad things I did to them.
He then explains to us how his strategy is to get to the end with someone who is more disagreeable with himself, which is exactly what we saw Brian Heidik do in Thailand without ever saying those exact words. He figured Matt is probably the most disagreeable one, but after Matt gave everyone the loved ones, he's not so sure anymore. He thinks Matt may not be beatable.
I'm beginning to seriously doubt whether he's a beatable opponent anymore, and I may have to cut him off before the final two.
He then approaches Jenna and basically says to her face that he wants to be in the final two with her because, frankly, he thinks she's a goat. That's not the words he uses, he just says that he thinks he could beat her in the final two.
I think the person that I could stand the best chance at the end of the game with is you.
And Jenna, of course, then runs back to Heidi immediately and tells her what Rob just said. She also says how Rob is a snake, a slime ball, and she would be embarrassed to know him in real life.
He's a snake. Everybody's gonna know that, and it's embarrassing. I would be embarrassed to know him because he's such a slime ball.
Rob says his relationship with Jenna and Heidi has developed into feeling like he's living with two ex-girlfriends who both hate him and now realize he a jerks, which he admits that, hey, I am a jerk.
And they think I'm a jerk, but I'm sorry, I am a jerk. And you just didn't realize it for 31 days.
Jenna then calls out Rob publicly in an attempt to sway the tribe's opinion on him. It seems like no one else agrees with her besides Heidi, and Rob tells her that if she has a problem with him, then he has the solution for her.
If you do not like the way I play this game, please feel free to write ROB on your parchment tomorrow night.
Rob then says he is an alliance of one, a lone wolf. He picks up the bottom feeders and uses them to flip the game with the promise of taking them to the end. He has lied and broken promises to people, but claims that since he is open and honest about it, then that is why people still trust him. He says, has no one been paying attention the first 32 days of this game? That's how he always plays.
Everybody's telling me all the time how much they believe me, how much they trust me. Were these guys paying attention the first 32 days?
However, while he thinks people trust him, it has been made clear that aside from maybe Butch, simply because we never hear from him, no one left in the game fully trusts Rob. We then see Rob talking to Butch and Matt, and neither seems swayed by Jenna and Heidi's pitch that they made earlier, that Rob is the worst and a snake. So to Rob's face, they're completely on board. Jenna wins immunity, so Rob decides, gotta vote out Heidi, and knows he has Matt and Butch on board. He goes to talk to Christy knowing she's the crucial fourth vote. However, Christy is very non-committal as she hasn't made up her mind yet, she says.
I don't want to grill you, but you're still gonna vote for Heidi tonight?
I guess so.
I guess so.
I don't know.
Now previously, we saw her talking to Heidi and Heidi talked to her about voting out Rob, and now Christy is seriously considering this and says right to Rob's face, yeah, I'm not sure if I'm voting out you or if I'm voting out Heidi. Once again, like Alex, bad that Rob is the target, but great that the person telling Rob trusts him enough to tell him this. He decides it's time to vote out Christy and convinces Heidi to get her and Jenna to vote out Christy, and they seemingly agree.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay.
This is really crazy stuff to be going on.
At Tribal, Jenna says, I am judged constantly by how I look, and I feel like I have to work twice as hard to get to where I am right now.
I'm judged all the time by just outside looks. I've felt like I've had to work twice as hard to get here, and I think Heidi feels the same.
Jeff asks Rob if he has that same issue, and Rob explains.
Well, I was lucky in this game that I'm not handsome, so I didn't have any handicaps like the girls found.
The flip on Christy ends up being successful as she is voted out 4-2, with only Butch voting with her.
Christy, the tribe has spoken.
Moving into episode 13, Jenna is feeling much better about Rob after he kept his word and voted out Christy.
Things change now, like, because of what happened last night. Like, I don't feel like half as betrayed as I did before.
Then, for some odd reason that goes against all previous logic we have heard from Rob in past episodes, he tells Jenna and Heidi to their faces that he's voting them out next. Now, maybe this is so they don't feel blindsided when they leave, and when they're on the jury, they're not mad at him. And he wants to go to the end with Butch and Matt, but it goes against what Rob has said when both Alex and Christy told him that they may vote him out.
Heidi, I think I'm gonna vote for you next.
Okay.
And then Jenna, but telling the girls my plans to vote off Heidi and then Jenna was actually very well received. It seems like people don't get too mad when you tell them that. They just say, oh, okay, cool.
Butch loves firewood. This is a fact. It's a fact we have to accept because he loves it so much that even though there are only 6 days left in the game, they have enough firewood for weeks. Rob is recruited into Butch's firewood gathering. He does an impersonation of Butch to Heidi and Jenna.
I got firewood, gonna keep the fire burning for 3 days.
This is the best firewood that you could find.
I'm just a wood crazy nut, I guess.
Butch then tells Rob, hey, you will be successful in life, and Rob says he isn't sure how he became Butch's lackey.
I don't know how I necessarily became the junior deputy firewood bitch. I don't want to be a team with Butch.
It is time for the reward challenge, but before they go, Rob double checks with Butch on how he's feeling about how much firewood they have.
Butch, how do you think we are on firewood if it rains?
Just gotta put this stuff here over there.
Okay.
I think we're in pretty good shape.
You think we need to get any more, or you think we're okay?
I think we're okay. Ooh, it's dry.
Matthew ends up winning the reward challenge, and what does he win? But a new car. He gets to bring one person on the reward with him, and he picks Rob.
You guys, I made a deal before this game. I told Rob. I was hoping it was going to be more people than that.
Everybody else out of the car, I'm sorry.
Rob then compliments Matt on his new ride and asks, hey, can I borrow your car when you're out of town? And Matt says yes.
When you go away, can I borrow it?
You can borrow this car, dude. You can take it for a spin.
Can I tell girls that it's
you
mine?
can cruise chicks in this car. I will let you.
As a part of that reward, they get to enjoy a lovely barbecue feast, and Rob realizes, hey, they have coal and matches. This is Butch's dream reward.
Too bad Butch is in here.
Yeah, he's gonna be bummed.
No, I'm talking about that we're lighting a fire.
Oh yeah.
Matthew then tells us how he trusts Rob and credits him for making it this far in this game. He even tells Rob this.
My trust, nobody trusts me anymore.
Right, except for me.
Yep.
And I do because you're the reason I'm here today.
Rob follows all of that by saying he's out of moves. He's done everything he can to get to this point, and now it's up to Matt. While voting, we hear Rob refer to Heidi and Jenna as half-wits.
2 girls, 1 brain, divide by 2. Only 1 half-wit left.
Heidi is then voted out 3-2.
Heidi, the tribe has spoken. Time for you to go.
Finale time. It is Rob versus Jenna versus Matthew versus Butch. Rob is in the majority alliance and Jenna is their next target. It isn't clear whether Rob wants to sit next to Matthew or Butch at the end, but either way, he has a decent chance if he can make the jury feel good about his game. The finale starts with Butch doing a crazy dance.
Well, first off, I start with the Egyptians.
Oh yeah, Butch, cutting it up.
Yeah. Then it's the old kind of.
Now he did a dance like this in the last episode as well, and he also just got done burning down half their camp due to his excessive collection of dry firewood. Rob thinks that Butch may need to see a therapist after the game, and even Matt is saying Butch is crazy.
When this game is over, I think Butch is gonna need to see a therapist. Even Matthew says, really, Butch is psychotic, he's crazy.
Jenna wins the final 4 immunity challenge, really throwing a wrench into what was supposed to happen next, and now Rob is in a spot he wasn't expecting. He feels vulnerable. He decides to target Butch over Matt since him and Matt have been closer all game, and Matt agrees to vote with Rob for Butch.
I'm going to do my best to speak to her today, and I'm gonna work that deal.
And I appreciate that.
We then see Butch approaching Jenna and tells her he will vote whatever way she wants. Jenna tells Butch she wants Rob gone, and Butch agrees.
Well, probably the person who dogged me. Probably Rob. The only person who screwed me royally was Rob, and that's the only thing I can go on.
Matt tells us how Rob is in real trouble since his only real relationship left in this game is with Matt, and that Matt holds the power. He then pitches to Jenna to save Rob because he wants people at the end who deserve to be there, and Rob has just screwed so many people, he isn't going to be a big threat. Jenna agrees to vote for Butch.
Okay, I swear on everything.
And we'll shake it right now before they come back.
At Tribal Council, Jeff asks Rob what he did to get into Jenna's good graces today, and Rob says,
I tried to make Jenna lunch this afternoon. I told her that she looked beautiful today, but seriously.
Butch is voted out 3-1, and Matt saved Rob, and Jenna kept her word.
Butch, the tribe has spoken.
It is time for the final 3 immunity challenge, and it actually takes place at Tribal Council the next day. It is an endurance challenge where you have to stand on a perch and hold a headrest above your head. Matt drops early on in the challenge, and now Rob has to win, or it seems like Jenna is going to make the deciding vote that probably won't go his way. He tries to cut a deal with her, but she denies it.
Jenna, step down, I'll take you.
No, let's just fight it out.
As the immunity challenge heats up,
Rob is out.
Rob loses, and this means what is next is inevitable unless Jenna thinks she has a better chance against Rob than she does against Matt at the end of the game. She votes for Rob, and he is out.
Rob, the tribe has spoken. It's time for you to go.
So let's break this down. How was Rob as a character? He was witty and hilarious. Now some of his jokes don't age well, but otherwise he is one of the funniest characters the show has had so far, and he has a luxury item that stands out among the rest simply due to how it was used for laughter, and he used it to integrate himself into the tribe. Even while he was being villainous, it was still mostly in good fun, so nothing ever felt truly dark like the vibe that we got from Clay Jordan one season prior, who was the funny man that season. He was good TV around camp and even better TV in confessionals, and it was clear why he was given the most confessionals this season and was this season's narrator. Out of 47 character moments shown on the show, 31 were heroic and 16 were villainous, making Rob Cesternino a hero on Survivor the Amazon. Now, how was Rob as a strategist? Brilliant, but flawed.
Plus, we will hear from Rob tonight, the smartest player to never win.
Rob in the Amazon was very smart and seasons ahead of everyone else. He understood this game better than anyone we had ever seen previously on the show and caused a lot of blindsides and twists and turns that even we as an audience didn't see coming sometimes. This rarely, if ever, happened in the first 5 seasons, yet Rob was causing it almost weekly. Even when he did things like telling Jenna to write his name down tribal, you can't help but be amazed. However, Rob failed to understand that he needed to keep his threat level low and keep what he was doing secret from the others. His 3rd place finish was very appropriate given how he played. Out of 65 strategic moments shown on the show, 47 were smart and 18 were dumb, making Rob Cesternino a smart strategist on Survivor the Amazon. Next time on Once Upon an Island, we will be doing a comparison of why Dr. Will won and Rob Cesternino lost, as Rob has gone on record saying that how he played in the Amazon was very much inspired by how Dr. Will played in Big Brother 2. Thanks for watching, and if you like the content you see here, then please support me and this channel on Patreon. Your financial support makes this channel possible, so thank you for watching.
Plus, we will hear from Rob tonight, the smartest player to never win.